Good evening. Let's do that again. Good evening. It's so good to have a packed house tonight. My name is Erica Wild. I am the Membership Education Vice President for Alpha Delta Pi, and it is my honor. It is my honor to welcome you to the Freedom Rocks 2012. To begin our program, we have the ETSU Army, a color guard, here to present our colors. So please remain standing for the national anthem as well. Okay, I would now like to ask Alexa Cassell and Adam Jarvis, who are going to share some insights on the Freedom Rocks program, kind of a little bit about it. Adam, Alexa.
Hello, how are y'all doing tonight? Woo! Thank you so much for coming out. We really are excited about this event. We're honored to have a great panel with us tonight. We hope that you'll enjoy the program. I think we've got a lot of great activities and people here to discuss some important topics that are in our nation and community as well as state right now. How many Republicans do we have in the House right now? Woo! Awesome, awesome. Like Erica said, I'm Adam Jarvis. I'm currently the Vice President for College Republicans on campus, and it's now my honor to introduce Alexa Cassell.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm the president of College Republicans, Alexa Cassell, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about our organization and hopefully see some of you at our meetings in the future. We meet every other Wednesday. Our locations are posted on Facebook, but it's Wednesdays at 7. And tomorrow night we're meeting at Cutie Brown's, and we're actually going to go to the Republican headquarters before and work on the Romney-Ryan campaign. So if you are interested, join us there. And yet again, we're on Facebook and on Buck Hub, so please join us in our organization, and hope you enjoy the program. Thank you. At this time, it's my pleasure to announce or to bring up to the stage the College Democrats.
How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Frederick Pogue. I'm the president of the College Democrats. This is my vice president.
I'm Jared Leftrick.
And we've recently just reorganize the organization. We're having our first official meeting tomorrow night here in the Culp Center, meeting room 3 at 7 p.m. It's good to see all of you out tonight. Whether you're here because you truly love our democratic process, you wanted a free t-shirt, or your history or World Civ professor gave you some extra credit, it's great that you're here. We really appreciate it. And so I encourage every one of you to come check us out, and that's all I got for you.
I would just like to talk about how this program, just the impact that college students had on the 2008 election. This is kind of a big emphasis, in my opinion, on that, so that you need to get out and go vote, because your vote really does matter in our political system. So whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, we would invite you to come join us tomorrow night at 7. So good for the program.
Thanks, you guys. Okay, so tonight we have the honor of having Mr. Jeff Anderson as our Master of Ceremonies. Mr. Anderson is the Associate Vice President for University Advancement and Planned Giving. He was president of the Student Government Association during his time here at ETSU, and his public services include mayor and city commissioner for the city of Johnson City. One program that's near and dear to my heart is the Roan Scholar Program. Jeff has helped out with that, so I am honored to introduce Mr. Jeff Anderson.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Erica. Good evening, and welcome to Freedom Rocks. It's great to see each of you here this evening, and whether it's you're here because of extra credit or extra interest or extra refreshments or extra t-shirts, thank you so much for being here to learn more about these men and women who have offered themselves up in public service to lead this state and to lead this nation. Would like to thank the Sisters of Alpha Delta Pi, who are our sponsors this evening, and our co-sponsors again, College Republicans, College Democrats, and the Feminist Majority Leadership Alliance. Join me if you would, and let's recognize these good girls. We have an outstanding lineup of speakers this evening, and certainly like to, on your behalf, express our collective appreciation to each of these speakers this evening. They all have very busy schedules, and some of them have very busy campaigns. And so we are very, very pleased that they recognize the importance of East Tennessee State University and you as young adult and young voters, and your importance in the freedom process too. And our first speaker this evening, I believe, is joining us through the miracle of technology, Skype. Our first speaker this evening is Secretary of State for the state of Tennessee, the Honorable Trey Hargett, and he will be speaking with us with respect to the Tennessee voting process. Just a quick word of introduction for Secretary Hargett. He's the 37th Secretary of State for the state of Tennessee. He lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee. He's also a past chair of the Tennessee Regulatory Authority, and he served 10 years in the Tennessee House of Representatives. He holds 2 degrees from one of our sister institutions, the University of Memphis. So if we have Secretary Hargett at this time, what is it they say? A little bit of technical difficulties? Thanks for bearing with us this evening, and if we may throw Representative Hill in the breach just a few minutes early, just by way of introduction, Representative Hill will speak this evening on the importance of voting. Representative Matthew Hill has served 4 terms, or 8 years, in the Tennessee House of Representatives. He's one of our own. He's an ETSU alum, in addition to being a graduate of Northeast State as well. He represents House District 7, which consists of part of Washington County, Tennessee, in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Representative Hill chairs the House General Subcommittee on Health, is vice chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. Representative Hill is active with the Telford Ruatan, the National Federation of Independent Business, and the National Rifle Association. And Representative Hill will address us for 3 minutes regarding the importance of voting. Let's recognize Representative Matthew Hill.
Thank you very much. Also, just to let you know that ETSU is in my legislative district, so I represent you in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Even if you're not originally from here, when you're on campus, I represent you in the Tennessee General Assembly. The importance of voting is in that phrase. It's not just kind of important, it's vitally important. You know, you hear people say that every election is the most important election of our lifetime. Well, you know what? They're right. It is. Someone told me one time, they said, you know, if you don't vote, you can't complain. That's not actually true. This is America, where you have liberty and you have freedom to complain, even if you do not participate, and even if you do not vote. But I would submit to you this evening that it is vitally important that you participate in the process, and that you vote, that you register to vote, and that you exercise your right to vote. But let me encourage you that you don't just go to the polls because, you know, the TV tells you to, or a bunch of people sitting up here tell you to, or somebody reminds you, hey, it's Tuesday, November, it's time to go vote. Let me encourage you, do your homework, do a little bit of research, just a little bit of work, a little bit of homework, and find out about the candidates that are running for office, whether it be for president, for U.S. Senate, for Congress, for state Senate or the state House, the county offices, the city offices, the school boards. Do a little bit of research. Don't be afraid to pick up that telephone and to call the candidate. If you can get in contact with them directly, do that. If you can get in contact with their campaign, do that directly, either on the telephone, in person, or through email. And ask the questions that you care about. Get to know more about that candidate, but all the candidates that are involved in that particular race that you care about, so that when you go vote, and I hope each of you do go vote, that it will be an informed vote. An informed vote is the most important kind, and quite frankly, it's the most effective kind of vote. Because if you're informed about who you are for, and more importantly, why you are for that individual, then you become more effective when you are talking to your friends, your family, your coworkers, and you tell them, hey, I'm voting for, fill in the blank, whoever it might be, and then more importantly, here's why I'm voting for that person. And yeah, it might get a little uncomfortable for a couple minutes, might get a little tense when you talk politics, but these men and women that are running for office, they will shape your future in ways that you don't even completely understand yet. Because depending on the level of government that they represent, depending on the way that they participate, on the state, national, and local level, they impact a lot more of your life than you might realize. And it's really important for you to know who they are and what they stand for. And that's why I like forums like this. Sometimes the questions, when we get to the question and answer session, can get a little squirrely, and that's okay. That's all right, because that's what our republic is all about. We are a republic. We are a representative form of democracy where we elect our men and women to go and represent us in the various places of government. So I would encourage you, don't just leave here and be like, all right, we're going to vote. Please, don't vote without knowing who you're voting for and why you are going to vote. Do a little bit of research, do a little bit of homework, and the importance of voting will be made extremely crystal clear to you. And then you will be able to vote with confidence, you will be able to vote with assurance, and with some wisdom behind you as well. And I think that will be, that will do us all benefit, no matter who you vote for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Matthew Hill, Tennessee 7th District. This time, we'll move right next door to the, I don't believe, do we have Secretary? No? Okay. We'll move right next door to the Tennessee House District 6. The first candidate with us this evening is Mr. Mike Clark, again, one of our own, a graduate in political science from East Tennessee State University. He, for 18 years, edited The Loafer, the weekly entertainment newspaper of the area, and he is also a native of Washington County. He's now a freelance writer and songwriter, and Mike shared very proudly that his daughter has recently turned 18, and she will be voting for the first time in this election. Please welcome the Democratic nominee for the District 6 Tennessee House seat, Mr. Mike Clark.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, a lot of the people up here on this stage are a little bit younger than I am. But I think I have one qualification that none of the gentlemen sitting up here tonight, and lady, have. and that is that I am a recent graduate of East Tennessee State University. I graduated December of 2011. So thank you. Thank you. So I have one foot in the past, and I think with you guys, one foot in the future, in that I know a lot about what you all find important about politics and about government and what you are interested in. Maybe a little bit more perspective than some might have. I know that you guys are passionate about politics, and you're passionate about this country, and you're passionate about what you care about. And I also know that that is not necessarily within the label of Democrat and Republican anymore. That the old labels aren't working as well for you guys. You guys want government to do something about the problems we face. Stop standing on party lines and yell at each other and actually do the serious work of governing. There are a lot of issues I know that face students, that from grants, from student loans to Hope scholarships for upcoming students. You've got housing and you've got jobs. I read something the other day as people who say kids in college can get jobs don't understand how hard it is when you've got 3 papers due all on the same day and you've got to work. It's very hard. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, but boy, howdy, I sure do. I know what that's like. So we've got to tap into y'all's energy about politics, about government, and about dealing with the problems we have to face. You guys aren't necessarily political by label. You're political by what your desires are. From my friend Andy up there in Veterans Affairs to mountaintop removal, to coal, to world peace, ending hunger. You guys are passionate about your issues and you work hard within them. And some of the best friends I have gone on from classes here and working in communities and working in organizations, creating organizations that change things. You guys are the future. We need to listen to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike Clark, Democratic nominee, Tennessee House Representatives, District 6, House seat. I believe, Erica, Adam, we have Secretary Hargett. Is that correct? Okay. We'll move on at this time. The other candidate this evening for the Tennessee House Representatives District 6 is the Republican nominee, Mr. Micah Van Huss. He is a graduate of Pensacola Christian College. He is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, served in Iraq, and also assisted in Afghanistan. He and his family live in Sulphur Springs. And at this time, please help me recognize the District 6 Republican nominee, Mr. Micah Van Huss.
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. I also want to thank Alpha Delta Pi for hosting the event. Ronald Reagan said, "America is a shining city on a hill whose beacon light guides freedom-loving people everywhere." I want to take just a few minutes tonight to talk to you folks about the importance of our age. I'm actually probably a little bit older. I graduated 9 years ago. While I was knocking on doors, a lot of the older ladies would ask me, "How old are you?" every once in a while in a negative connotation. And my answer was, "Ma'am, I'm the same age as Alexander the Great when he died, and he conquered the known world." Not that is my ambition, but that was my answer to their question. But I do want to stress the importance as young people, not only getting out and voting, but also running for state representative, for offices, the importance of it. There are many advantages to being young, running a campaign. My opponent in the Republican primary was twice my age, and my wife and I were able to knock on a little bit over 6,500 doors, and so that is one advantage to being young if you have thought about running for office. I would tell you the importance of voting. It's easy, especially as Americans, to become complacent, especially as young people, as young Americans. It's easy to become complacent and not go out to vote, not support candidates. We have a great nation for many reasons. One of the reasons is the fact that we have the freedom to vote. And I just want to encourage you folks to get out there and vote. A lot of people, as I was knocking on doors, told me that they wanted to see younger blood in office. And it's, there's a real opportunity for younger people to get out there and run and get out there and vote. When I was in Iraq, I many times would look out and see in the streets of Iraq, Iraqi children playing with sticks, rocks, and mud. And that's what they did all day long, unless they had something more fortunate to play with. And I just want to tell you folks a little bit about the great opportunities we have as Americans to run for office and to vote. I could tell you stories, I don't have time tonight to tell you stories of Iraqis, Afghanis who love Americans. Do not be discouraged by what the media would tell you that the world hates America. We saw last week Libyans support Americans against Al-Qaeda, protested against Al-Qaeda in Libya last week. But I won't go into stories. I don't have time for that tonight. I just want to encourage you folks that as Americans, do not become complacent. We have a great opportunity. I'll end with a quote from John Quincy Adams: "The duty is ours, the results are God's."
Thank you, Mr. Micah Van Huss, Republican candidate, Tennessee House District 6. We're still trying the technology. Hey, Phil, come on. Yeah. Okay. Our next speaker this evening is a candidate for the United States Senate, and it is a pleasure to have to the ETSU campus Ms. Brenda Leonard, soon to be Dr. Brenda Leonard, I understand from her website. And and I noticed per her website that she is a Frederick Douglass Republican, and many of us are very thankful for the pivotal role that Frederick Douglass had in shaping this country, his relationships with President Lincoln, with other presidents throughout the 19th century. And please welcome a candidate for the United States Senate, Brenda Leonard.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Brenda Leonard. I was the 2012 United States Senate for the state of Tennessee. And the topic that I was given this evening is to discuss the importance of government and government officials in general. And I would say that it is because of your votes that officials are in government. So your votes do matter. And if we look back and we think about it, September the 17th, we just celebrated Constitution Day. It was 224 years ago, America's founders ratified a new constitution that formed a more perfect union, securing the blessings of freedom and liberty. So on November the 6th, we have the opportunity to elect leaders who will protect, honor, and uphold these sacred freedoms and liberties that we are all enjoying today. By voting, you seize the opportunity to choose leaders that will fulfill the principles of the Constitution. So you may ask yourself, well, how do I choose a leader to lead us? So I'm just going to give you a few basic thoughts to think about when you're considering who to vote for and who to lead this great nation and our countries and our cities and our counties. One thing is read the Constitution. Not only read the Constitution, learn about the framers of the Constitution. Discover the ideals behind the Constitution. And then make a list of these principles. And when you make a list of these principles, compare each candidate with these principles and ask yourself, does this candidate compare or contrast with these guiding principles of this country? And once you do that, you make a decision and you select a candidate that either aligns with your principles, which hopefully is the Constitution of this country, and make a decision. Now, my goal this evening is not to tell you who to vote for, but rather to encourage you to vote, and to vote for the freedoms and the liberties that have made America exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brenda Leonard, candidate for the United States Senate. At this time, I'd like to recognize someone very well known to Upper East Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee, our state senator, Rusty Crowe. Rusty has a little bit of difference from these other ladies and gentlemen on the stage this evening. Rusty's not on the ballot this year.
That's right.
So,
thank goodness.
as a state senator, of course, he runs every 4 years, and he'll be running again in 2014. So he's early for 2014.
That's right.
Rusty has, since 1991, served as our state senator for Tennessee Senatorial District number 3, the 3rd Senate District. He is a graduate of East Tennessee State University and the Atlanta Law School. Senator Crowe chairs the Senate Calendar Committee and also chairs the Joint Select Committee on Veterans Affairs. He is a Vietnam veteran. He's also an inventor. He holds patents through the United States Patent, Copyright, and Trademark Office. Please welcome State Senator Rusty Crowe.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I did graduate from ETSU. Gosh, I graduated from, anybody in here graduate from university school? Yeah. I saw a couple as I came in. I graduated from University High in 1965. And it seems like it just seems like yesterday. I went to Brevard College for a couple of years. I loved music and I wanted to play basketball and golf and I did that there, and I then felt the need. We were in the Southeast Asian conflict. Vietnam was starting up and so I volunteered and left the college life, and like Micah, went to fight for us overseas, and boy, what an experience! It doesn't take much of that to make you ready to get back home and realize how important it is to vote. And so I'm so proud of all of you, and thanks so much to ADPI. You guys are great, and the college Republicans and Democrats and the FMLA as well. We're proud of all of you. It takes, they say it takes two to tango. It takes, in a group like this, it takes a lot of people together to make things work, and that's how government is. Like Brenda, I'm supposed to talk about the significance of government and our government officials as well. And if you cared enough to come tonight, I'm probably talking to the choir, because you guys are into this, and that's great at your age to really get involved. Politics makes the world go around. I think Jason Mumpower, that works with our Secretary of State, was he the youngest? One of the youngest representatives ever. Matthew was close to that when he went in. Trying to keep up with Matthew and Micah in this campaign year has made me realize I better get back out there and start walking around and knocking on doors. And I've been doing this for 22 years. But it's such a great and exciting, politics is so exciting, and it just makes everything happen. But I wanted to just briefly tonight give you a picture of how our state government works and how neat it is, all framed within the U.S. Constitution and our Tennessee Constitution. And thank goodness we have those documents to keep everything in line. Many times we work to make government smaller, and many times we try to increase the parts of our government that we don't think are helping as much as they should in our communities and keeping things straight. But, and you guys know this, we have the three branches, and the separation of powers is just really unique. And it starts at the top with Congressman Rowe, in Washington, the Senate and the House at that level, and it comes down to the state Senate and the state House. We have 33 senators in Tennessee and 99 representatives. As we said before, these guys, everybody else at the table except for I guess, Brenda, would have to run every 2 years. For me, it's every 4, and for you, if you win, it would be every 6. That's even better. But you talk about hard to deal with. Can you imagine every 2 years having to raise money, having to get out there, having to go door to door? The minute you win, like Congressman Rowe, you have to turn around and start running again. So, and they talk about term limits. 2 years is a great term limit. If you're not doing your job, they're going to kick you out, right? If I'm not doing mine, they're going to kick me out in 4 years. But our government is so unique and so great. We've got the judicial branch over here. You have the executive branch in the middle, and then all of us up here would make up the legislative branch. And our state is kind of like a corporation. The best way to look at it is our state's kind of like a corporation, and the executive branch is the CEO and the board members. And it's just really neat how it all works. But everything is based on votes. We work for you. These people all work for you. Even the Secretary of State and the comptroller and the treasurer, our constitutional officers, are a product of what you do because we elect them in the House and the Senate. And even the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, those people are appointed, but every so many years they have to go on the ballot, and you get to say yes or no, they're doing a good job, or no, they're not doing a good job. And so everything is based on the vote, and that's why this Freedom Rocks is so great. The Supreme Court even appoints our Attorney General. We're the only state in the nation where the Supreme Court appoints our Attorney General. Isn't that's kind of neat. At the same time, we're thinking of whether we should change that and make that an elected post. Most states elect, I guess, Matthew, don't they? And so we're thinking of all those things, but the judicial branch has that basis and that requirement of the people voting, and obviously the executive branch with the governor at the top. You elect the governor every 4 years, and then the governor appoints our board members, all the different departments of the state. Transportation. What's our product if we're a corporation? Education, transportation, corrections. Healthcare. Those are the biggies that we try to run as a corporation, as a state. And then you have the legislative branch, obviously, that votes on and affirms all of this. But it's all based on what you do out there and the people. And it's amazing to me how few vote. This last election. There just weren't many votes cast, and I hope I would say in this next presidential election, you'll see a turnout like we haven't seen in years. But great form of government. We're so proud in Tennessee. It's all based on you, the voter, and we're proud to work for you. We love what we do, or we wouldn't do it. In Tennessee, you don't do it for the money because our legislature is part-time, and you do it because you love doing it, and hopefully we get reelected. Now, I'm lucky. I'm going to end it with this. I'm lucky. I don't have to run this year. I say lucky because it takes a lot of work to do what these people are doing, and be very proud of them, both the Democrats and Republicans, for what they're out there doing. It takes a lot of work to run for office, and it's not easy. Every 10 years, we redistrict, and this year was one of those years, and so Matthew was on the committee that redistricts, so for the House, so he was much in charge of that. In the Senate, I actually get to represent a new county. I represent Washington and Carter counties, and previously I had Hawkins and Johnson, and we got redistricted. This next year, starting in November, I get to represent Unicoi County. Anybody from Unicoi County here? But so I get to pick up all right, I get to pick up Unicoi County, and that'll be fun. But we're very proud of you guys. I'm proud of all these candidates. thank you for coming out, and thank you for sponsoring this AD We're proud of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tennessee State Senator Rusty Crowe. Appreciate your comments very, very much. And I believe I'm getting a sign from Erica and Adam that we may have Tennessee Secretary of State Trey Hargett.
I'm here. Who am I speaking with?
All right.
Very good.
Who's
Yes.
on?
Hey, Erica. Fine, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Let's welcome Secretary of State for the state of Tennessee, Trey Hargett.
Personally, I was really looking forward to my visit to East Tennessee State University, and I really want to thank Dr. Nolan for his leadership at ETSU, and I really would like to see my friend Senator Crowe, Representative Hill, and Congressman Rowe there this evening, and also want to commend Alpha Delta Pi, the College Republicans, the Campus Democrats, and the Female Majority Leadership Alliance for working hard to make a difference, to make sure that we all exercise our right to vote. And tonight I want to talk to you about why it's important to be able to vote. First, if you haven't already registered to vote, I know Mark Goins is going to talk a little bit more about that later and how you can go about doing that. But and I know we've heard this before, but every vote does make a difference. And I can give you a few different examples. Number one, we know that the rights of women to vote in this country, and in Tennessee, of course, rested on one single vote in the state legislature. We had an election recently in Northeast Tennessee where a state house seat was decided by 11 votes. We had another race in West Tennessee where a state house seat was decided by 4 votes. And each of those races, whether it's a state race or a federal race, gives you the opportunity to have an impact on the future of our community. I believe Representative Hill talked earlier this evening, based on what I discovered on Twitter, was talking about the importance of being an informed voter. You as college students have so much to lose or gain by how this election turns out in the state of Tennessee and across this great nation. You owe it not only to yourselves, but our state and our country to be educated on the issues, to be able to go out and understand how candidates and their views stand based on your core values, to know how they can have a great impact on the future of our community. A great example of this right now is as you're in the Culp Auditorium at East Tennessee State University, is how higher education is going to be funded. And we've made great leaps over the last few years in outcome-based funding for ETSU and the colleges, the community colleges across our state. Your vote has a direct impact on who you send to Nashville and to Washington and how your tax dollars are being spent. And you owe it to yourself and those around you to be well-informed voters. I encourage you to exercise the right to vote. If you're not already registered, I want you to get registered. And then accept the challenge of registering a friend and carrying the vote with you. Because while some in this room this evening are Republicans, and some are Democrats, and some are going to be independents, what's important is that we're all Americans. And we have to stand up and exercise this right to vote, the future of our country. Additionally, I'm disappointed I can't be there because I was looking forward to wearing my Alpha Tau Mega shirt that I haven't worn since college days and be able to commend you for also your commitment, those of you who are in the Greek system, that we also know that we answer a call higher than ourselves to improve the community around us. And improve the community around us is much more than voting. That's a very basic way we can go vote, and a basic way that we can play a great role in our community. But it's also by giving back to others who may not be as fortunate. And that's a call that we all answer in public service. It's a call that we answer in Greek life. It's a call that as campus Democrats, as college Republicans, and the Female Majority Leadership Alliance, that you're all answering in your different ways that you provide social service in the area around you. And I know that Mark Goins this evening is going to tell you how you can go about exercise your right to vote, and the things you need to know as you get ready for Election Day. Once again, I'm very disappointed I can't be with you personally, and I'm looking forward to a future visit to East Tennessee University. Without further ado, I'm going to share the phone with Mark Owens, who is Tennessee's coordinator of elections. Thank you once again.
Well, it's always great to follow Secretary Hargett. He does a wonderful job, and it's always tough to follow him because he gives a great speech and it's heartfelt. But first, I want to cover and make it clear, I'm talking about Tennessee law. So if you're going to be voting in a different state, you need to follow up with those respective states. Tennessee has a new law going into effect this year, and that is that when you come to vote, you need to have a state or federally issued photo ID. Now, as you know, college student IDs are not one of the acceptable photo IDs. Therefore, you'll need a driver's license, a Department of Safety, Homeland Security photo. So if you don't have a photo ID, you can go to the Department of Safety and get a photo ID for free. State-issued gun carry permit will work. Military photo ID will work. United States passport will work. Any state or federally issued photo ID will work. Once again, I'll state that college students does not work. So if you show up in person to vote, you'll need a photo ID. If you vote absentee by mail, you do not need a photo ID. It's a different process. You request a ballot, and under your signature, when the request comes in, the Election Commission verifies your signature versus the voter registration form. And then if it matches, they will send you a ballot. You vote that ballot. You send it in by mail. That ballot must be received by Election Day. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Let's talk about registering to vote. It's a very simple form. Most of you have seen a voter registration form. For those of you who have not registered to vote, let me tell you there is a deadline. And for practical purposes, let me tell you that deadline is this week or next week. And if I can impart anything to you, if you haven't registered to vote, do it now. Now, the actual date is October the 8th. So to be registered for the November 6th election, you need to have your voter registration form in by October the 8th. October 8th is a holiday. The mail will not be postmarking mail at that time. That's why I'm telling you, if you're going to register to vote, you need to do it now. You need to tell your friends to do it now. There is a difference in whether you register to vote in person or versus registering by mail. If you register by mail, and that is if you register at a voter drive that is not conducted by an election official, then that is considered by mail registration, or if you send it through the mail, that's considered by mail as well. If you register in person, that is if you take your form into the Election Commission or the Election Commission official has registered you to vote. Also, if you signed up at an agency that is designated by state and federal government as a registering agency, that would be the Department of Safety, that is considered in person as well. I did do some research. I know that ETSU has an ROTC organization on campus. That is an agency that's been designated. So if you want to be designated as an in-person registration, go to the ROTC. Here's the difference. If I register by mail, I must vote in person the first time I vote. So once again, if I register by mail, I must vote in person by the first time I vote. If I'm an in-person registration in Tennessee, then I can go and request an absentee ballot and vote by mail. So if I register in person, I can vote by mail. Or if I've ever voted in person in the county where I live, I can vote by mail. You do have to have a reason. But if you don't live in the county where you're a resident, you will have a reason. Let me give you the two reasons. One, if I'm a college student or a spouse of a college student outside the county where I'm registered to vote, I must be a full-time student in this situation. That is a reason. You can fill out a form and you can request an absentee by mail form. And those forms can be downloaded on our website, govoteten.com, govoteten.com. Or if you are not a full-time student, there's still an exception that you'll probably meet, and that is a voter who is outside the county during early voting and election days. They can vote by mail. You can request an absentee ballot now, and you can do that up to 7 days before the election. However, your ballot must be back in the Election Commission office by Election Day or on or before Election Day. If it comes in after that, we can't get that ballot. The main thing is do it now. So if you're going to vote by mail, you need to request an absentee ballot right now. Do it now. The voting days in Tennessee, November 6th is the main election day. Early voting is between October 17th through November the 1st. I would encourage you to vote early. You can avoid the lines and go vote early. Make your vote count. I do want to talk about 2008 turnout, just to show you what we're looking forward to this November. In 2008, we had 66% of voters turn out to vote. That's 2.6 million. 2.6 million Tennesseans turned out to vote. Of those, 60% voted early and absentee. I anticipate we'll have over 2 million voters turn out again this year in November. Will you be one of them? Well, that'll be up to you. We hope that you will be. As I conclude, once again, you can go to our website, get additional information at govotetn.com, govotetn.com, or you can call our toll 1-877-850-4959. Thanks for having me. Go vote, go vote.
Thank you very much, State Coordinator of Elections, Mr. Mark Goins, and our Tennessee Secretary of State, the Honorable Trey Hargett. Thank you for that very helpful advice. And when's the time to register to vote? Now. All right, now. That's right. That's right. Our final two candidates this evening are with us, each of whom is a candidate for the United States House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., to represent the 1st Congressional District of Tennessee. Our first candidate this evening is Dr. Alan Woodruff, but I understand from his website he prefers Alan, does not like doctor. He holds, by my count, Alan, at least 5 college degrees, a law degree, an advanced law degree, a PhD, and several certifications. He has been an attorney, a chemical engineer, and his degrees are from Virginia Tech, Florida State, University of Washington, and other institutions as well. And Alan lives in Washington County, Tennessee. Please welcome the Democratic nominee for the United States House of Representatives, 1st District of Tennessee, Dr. Alan Woodruff.
The very lovely Erica Wild gave us all some topics that we were supposed to talk about tonight. And just as proof that this panel is made up of politicians, any connection between the talk given and the topic suggested is purely coincidental. Now, I must admit, I suffer from a case of Joe Biden disease. Whenever I open my mouth, I never really know what's going to come out. But in the spirit of bipartisanship, I also adopt the principle stated by Mitt Romney. I may not remember what I said, but I stand by it. Boo. Does anybody know where the word politics comes from? Got a show of hands out there? You don't count. Comes poly, Latin, and Greek. Which one? Greek, meaning many, and ticks, which are blood-sucking parasites. Now, one thing that whenever I talk to any group, I always come away knowing something new and useful. And I spoke to people before the activities began today, and there's something that I learned about ETSU that I consider to be useful and highly memorable. America. The topic I was given was the importance of this election. And I'm going to try to stick to it, and that'll make Phil stick to it, and then we all get along together. The pundits, the news media, talks about this election principally in terms of the presidency. It's alternatively either a referendum on the Obama administration or it is a referenda on two competing ideas for the future. And the presidency is certainly going to be foremost in the minds of most voters. But I suggest that something that is equally important, both to you as voters and to the government, is the existence of a Congress with the lowest approval rating in history and a Congress that's characterized by total gridlock. Now, the Founding Fathers, in my opinion, they'd be rolling over in their graves if they saw the way the current Congress is functioning. The majority of them, and if any of you are political scientists and know better, please don't correct me because my line is all set up. The majority of the Founding Fathers were not in favor of political parties. They didn't like them very much for the same reason that I don't like them right now. We have, and this doesn't apply to every member of the Democratic or Republican caucuses, but we have far too many people who are more concerned with advancing the interests of their party than the interests of the country. And there are numerous topics, and I'm sure that if asked, Phil would agree with me, on which the members of Congress can agree and they still won't vote the legislation through. And that has got to stop. And that is more permeating even than the issues that are relating to the presidential election. In some ways, it's more relevant to you because you're going to be voting for a congressman, and your vote means a little bit more than one vote for the President of the United States. And remember, when you vote, you are voting for a candidate. You're not voting for a party. You have a civic duty to vote. And I'm going to jump over and support Matthew Hill. You have a duty, an equally important duty, to vote responsibly. And in the spirit of bipartisanship, I'm going to adopt paragraphs 3, 4, and 7 of Matthew Hill's presentation and remind you of the importance of knowing who and what you are voting for. You're all going to be bombarded, as you already have been, with political campaigns, which are mostly sound bites, slogans, and at best about half-truth. You need to go out and find out what a candidate really stands for. It's not easy. Now, with the presidential election, at least we have some debates where the candidates are going to have to face each other, defend their positions, be asked questions, and you have some means of getting that comparison. You're not going to get that comparison in campaigns for General Assembly in Tennessee or for U.S. Representative or for Senate because the candidates won't agree to debates. And I'd like to suggest that the organizers of this group or this meeting quickly get with the candidates and get a debate because you have a right to know where everyone stands. And you have a right and a duty to make an informed choice. And that choice is going to make a difference in what kind of Congress do we have. Do you want Congress that is gridlocked? Do you want Congress made up of people whose sole qualifications is a party affiliation? Or do you want to have candidates whose experience, temperament, qualifications led them to do something together in the interest of the country rather than in the interest of the party? That's the choice. That's what I think is the most important part of this election, and that choice is up to you. How'd I do on the humble meter?
Your time is almost done.
Okay.
Dr. Woodruff. You want to conclude briefly, or?
Conclude briefly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, do I know how to campaign or what?
Thank you, Alan Woodruff, Democratic nominee for the United States House, 1st District of Tennessee. Our next speaker this evening, and our final speaker, is our current Congressman, Phil Rowe. Dr. Phil Rowe has represented the 1st District of Tennessee in the United States House of Representatives since 2009. He is now standing for election for his 3rd term. By profession, he's a physician and OBGYN. He's a former mayor and city commissioner of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee. He's a graduate of Austin Peay and the UT Medical Center in Memphis. He is also a U.S. Army veteran. And currently, Congressman Rowe serves as a member of the Education and Workforce Committee in the House, and also the Veterans Affairs Committee in the United States House of Representatives. Please welcome Congressman Phil Rowe.
Thank you all. First of all, I want to thank my wife, who's in here somewhere, for allowing me to run and have this office. Without her support, without your family's support, you can't do that because you are gone a lot. And I want to thank her for allowing me to be here, wherever she is in here. And I can't believe it's been 4 years since I was here before when you all organized this, and this is a fantastic event. And the young woman who helped organize this 4 years ago works for Merrill Lynch in Morristown now, and I brag on her every time I see her. I'm going to tell you a few things about myself. I lived here for 31 years in practice in medicine, and what I found out when you run for Congress, it actually works out pretty well when you deliver your own voters. So, and they continue to grow up every year. Saturday, we had Academy Day, we do this every year in Morristown at Walter State Community College. And I want to brag on the ETSU ROTC unit. They did a great job there. And I'm going to tell you something about this university that you probably don't know. This university has supplied over 1,400 officers for the U.S. Army, 8 generals, 3 of whom I know. Amazing. Give yourself a hand. And people ask me, Phil, why, when you're a small businessman, you're mayor of Johnson City working with great people here, and I really did enjoy that. The best government, by the way, is local government, without a doubt. The further your government gets away from you, the worse it is. And I think the further I've seen it at its worst right now in Washington, D.C. It's totally ineffective and total gridlock. But I want to encourage you today to look at public service. And let me just tell you a little bit how I grew up. I grew up in a small rural county in Middle Tennessee. My dad worked in a factory and he made shoe heels. And I was very proud of what my dad did because the shoes that I wore had the heels that he made on. My mother was a bank teller. But in this great country, I got a chance to go to college. I stayed at home. I got a chance to go to medical school. And then I had a chance to go serve this great nation in the 2nd U.S. Infantry Division in Korea near the DMZ. I had a 12-week-old son when I left the country, and every veteran asked themselves the question, did my service matter? Did it matter that I went in the military and left the country and helped protect and make the freedoms that we have here? And the answer is, for me, unequivocally yes. Because 3 months ago, I got to go back to Korea where I served 39 years ago. And what I saw 39 years ago was a military dictatorship in a country that wasn't free. And I saw an economy that was stumbling. Today, they have a freely elected prime minister. 60% of their young people go to college. 60% go to college, and they work hard, and they have the 9th largest economy in the world. And they said to say thanks to the American people and the American soldier and GI for giving them that possibility. What I brought this up was, my father came from a very humble background, but I was able to graduate from college and medical school with no debt. I bet there's not anybody in this room that can say that. My father never made more than $10,000 a year in his life working in a factory. And think about that. Now young people come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I encourage you, and I am working very hard on the education and workforce because I think the future of America lies with you, not with the people, certainly not with me up here and Alan up here, but you all. You're the future of this country. And if you are burdened with such a debt, you'll never be able to get out from under it. And let me tell you, the biggest predatory lender in America is the U.S. Department of Education. They're charging you 6.8% interest when it should be 3% if the free market system worked. You're paying over twice what it should cost you. And I voted to keep the interest rate at just 6.8%, which is ridiculous. And I want you to think about public service. I had an opportunity to serve as a soccer coach for the local community here, as a PTA president, as a planning commissioner, as a local city commissioner and a local mayor. And then people said, Phil, why in the world did you decide to go to Congress? And the honest answer is, after getting up there, I went off my medication. It is the wackiest place I have ever been. But it is an honor and a noble thing to do, public service is. And I think each of you should strive to do that, and voting is extremely important. We left out one very important vote. And by the way, this district that we're in now, the 1st Congressional District of Tennessee, is the only district in America that's had 2 presidents, Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson. And so Andrew Johnson made a courageous vote. Otherwise, Abraham Lincoln would have been impeached. Think about that. The courageous vote that he, so one vote does matter. And I'll tell you a funny story about voting in Sneedville. One lady wrote her name in as a constable, and that was the only vote that was cast, and she ended up being a constable when she voted for herself. So be careful if you write your name in, you might end up being a congressman. So I think I would disagree with my good friend Rusty Crowe. I do think that it is service, not a career in Congress. I believe in term limits. I think people go and stay too long. I think we should go and change because new ideas come in, and certainly we've seen that in this last Congress. And I thought when I went there that 2 years was too often to run. Our founding fathers had it right, because when the country's going in a direction they don't like, in 2 years they can pivot and change directions, which is exactly what they did in 2010. This election that we're talking about that's coming up, this Constitution I have in my pocket right here, was in the Supreme Court chambers when the health care debate was going on. I was in the chambers and listened to that. I'm going to make a statement today some of you may like, may not like. But after hearing that, I determined if I were ever a U.S. Senator, there would be one thing that would absolutely prevent me from voting for you as a Supreme Court member, and that's a law degree from Harvard or Yale. I said, if you've got a law degree from Harvard or Yale, 8 of the 9 justices have gone to those 2 schools. How about UT? How about Vanderbilt? How about the University of Common Sense? I wouldn't mind seeing that one graduated from. Let me tell you, before I finish, let me tell you how precious this is right here, these freedoms that people have bled and died for. And I've been to Afghanistan twice, Guantanamo Bay, how precious these freedoms are. Not everybody in the world can do what we can do and have a meeting here tonight, a civil meeting, and listen and hear each other discuss things. We can't do that. Many places in the world you cannot. I voted against the Patriot Act because I didn't want to see our freedoms trampled on. I voted against the National Defense Authorization Act because of habeas corpus. We're having our freedoms nibbled away at by this government. And I can tell you, a government big enough to give you everything you want, I'm paraphrasing, is a government big enough to take away everything you have, and remember that. I appreciate you being here. Your vote does matter. Please go out and vote and get involved in the process. And when you graduate from this great university here, go back to your communities and be the leaders I know you are, and volunteer. And for those of you who live here, I appreciate any of you who've supported me and my family. It's a tough life sometimes. You're gone a lot. You miss your family. My dogs growl at me when I come home now. I'm gone so much, it seems like. They don't even like me anymore. But I do appreciate the privilege of doing it. Every day when I get up and I go across Pennsylvania Avenue, I live on the other side of the White House, on the more dangerous side. But I look up and I look to my left and I see the Capitol dome of this phenomenal country. I get goosebumps. It is a privilege to live in this, and it is the greatest nation that has ever been on the face of the earth.
Thank you very much, Congressman Rowe. Republican, 1st District, Congressional District, State of Tennessee. Let's have a hand for all our public service and candidates. And a few audience questions this evening. And I will address most of these as I'm thumbing through them quickly. Look to be addressed to a specific candidate. So the first question is to Alan Woodruff, candidate for United States House. Alan, how does the Tea Party differ in ideals from the GOP?
I'm not sure that it really differs in ideals so much as how it wants to go about getting things done. I disagree with most of what the Tea Party stands for from a political position, but I have a huge admiration for them because they have motivated people to become involved in the electoral process. Most of you probably don't know, I spent the last 8 years suing states that limit ballot access on the part of minor parties and minor party candidates. And I can understand why Troy Haggard and Mark Goines aren't here in person, because I beat them on 5 counts in federal court this year. But I digress. Now, where the line gets drawn, I don't really know. Certainly, as I go around the Northeast Tennessee and talk to people, and let's face it, the majority of the people up here call themselves Republicans, I think most of them identify as Republicans in the Ronald Reagan mold. And by comparison to today's Republicans, or to the dominant voices in the Republican Party today, Ronald Reagan would be a flaming liberal. And there's no way that he would even be nominated for president today. So it's factionism. The Tea Party is, I think, more active, more organized, and certainly more vociferous than the average GOP. The GOP has a grand old history, and I'm not sure that the Tea Party is doing a whole lot of good for it. There's a lot of Republicans I talk to are really, they're ashamed of, or they don't even want to take a position. They don't like where it's going. They don't like the gridlock any more than Democrats like the gridlock. And we can get past it. All we got to do is work together.
Okay. Thank you.
Now I have a question. Did I answer your question?
I think you did.
All politicians should be required to answer the question they're asked. Did I answer the question?
Okay.
We can now move on.
All right. Thank you. This next question is directed to Congressman Phil Rowe. Congressman Rowe, I know Congress is working on decreasing college prices, but what about those of us that already have student loans and debt in place?
Let me quickly, I'll get to that. The first Tea Party I went to, it was in Abingdon, Virginia, and those folks stood up and said, we've got 3 things we want to ask you, Congressman, when you vote. Is it constitutional? Yes. Is it fiscally responsible? Does it protect this nation? How could you disagree with any of those 3 things? If we would do that, we'd be in a lot better shape today. I have, let me tell you a little bit of my private background. I've served on the foundation board here at ETSU, and I've served as a volunteer faculty member since 1980 till I went to Congress. Never accepted any money whatsoever. Taught medical students, residents. I love this university. And also served as a foundation board president of Austin Peay, because I feel like I can never pay them back. And let me explain to you why. I went out to dinner the other night in Washington, D.C., and the dinner that I paid for cost me more than a quarter of college. There's not anybody in here that can say that. We have to work on, and what's happened is, and Rusty knows this, when I was in college, fully 90% of my state college education was covered by the taxpayers, by the state of Tennessee, because they knew with me educated they would get the money back, and they have many times over. Today it's under 40%. If we don't do something, East Tennessee State is not going to be affordable for young people like me who didn't have wealthy parents. I couldn't go to Vanderbilt University Medical School. Got in, but couldn't go because the tuition there was more than my father made in a year. Think about that. That's still today. It's a $50,000 or $60,000 a year to go to that school. Great school, but it's so expensive. I think we've got to work on foundations, private foundations. I know the Hope Scholarship that Rusty, thank you, and Matthew and the rest of you to help make that happen. To help it make, I have donated thousands of dollars for that. And I think the other thing we can do is to open the market system up. I talked to several bankers Friday before I left at breakfast about this very issue, about being able to lower those interest rates to 3%. That's very important. If you've got a $100,000 or $200,000 debt, it will save you lots of money and also allow you to pay that loan off quicker. So it's a multitude of answers. But it isn't simple. I think you're going to see a lot of young people beginning to go to community college for 2 years because it is a lot less expensive, and then transfer to a 4-year university later.
Thank you, Congressman Rowe.
Jeff, if I might,
sure.
Congressman Rowe mentioned the Hope Scholarship. That passed by one vote in the Senate. The vote to put on the ballot so that you could vote to make that a part of the Constitution as constituents and as Tennesseans have passed by one vote in the Senate. And so there have been lots of one votes tonight, and that's just one more of them.
Thank you, Senator Crow. Here is a question that is not addressed to any of our panelists specifically this evening, so anyone is welcome to take a crack. How do you propose to stop or slow the rising cost of tuition at colleges and universities in the state of Tennessee?
Well, I'll jump on it again. I think, as we said, you have to look at private foundations. The foundations of both ETSU, Austin Peay, these schools, and one of the reasons a lot of the private universities have huge foundations and are able to have big scholarships. That's not the case for most land-grant state universities. Many of you, like I was, are first-generation college students. That the first one to graduate from college in your family. And I can tell you, when you look at education, and I'm also I go a little deeper than that. I've co-founded the Adult Literacy Caucus in Washington, D.C., because literacy is a huge problem in America. We have many people, adults, who are functionally illiterate. You don't think about that. And it costs only $275 for a person to get their GED. But on average, it adds $9,000 a year to their income. One of the things we also have to do in this country is get you back to work, because young people are graduating from college today. 50% of you can't find a job. I can tell you, when I was in college, it was an automatic ticket to a good job, a college education was. That's no longer true. And that's sad in this country when you can study. And I look out here, there's a room full of really smart people in here. And obviously engaged people. And you'll be great when you can find a job. But right now, our economy is so flat on its face that there's no work for you. So how are you going to pay your loans back? It's a very complicated situation. And I can assure you, my wife and I, having had 3 kids, we don't want you back home. We want you with a job. So I think it's a complicated answer, and the state has to help out. I think, Rusty, you probably, or Matthew, one, could help with that, because the state funds this university at about 39%, but half of what it did 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Thank you, Congressman Rowe. I believe Alan Woodruff had a comment.
We have actually changed the formula. You know, the formula for funding universities used to be based on numbers of students each university had. So Middle Tennessee State University, you know, was growing and growing and growing. They were getting a lot of money. We have changed that, and your president worked, before he came here, he was with the Tennessee Higher Education that West Virginia has. Before that, he was with our THEC, our Tennessee Higher Education. And he was one of those statisticians that would help us figure out what was going on with, you know, in funding and formulas and all that. Brian's a very intelligent, smart fellow, and he knows state government. He worked for 8 years, I guess, with us in Nashville. And I think what we did is we changed the formula to be based on graduation rates. And so it's more of a performance-based funding now. But from a tuition perspective, it's more a State Board of Regents and a Tennessee Regents action. And obviously as a legislature, we're a part of that, but it's generally done through the Board of Regents and the Tennessee Higher Education, THEC, and through the Tennessee Board of Regents for the UT system. But what you can do, I think, what I have seen work is when students get active in student government associations and come to Nashville and testify before us and say, please don't do this. Tell us why you're raising tuition. Tell us why you're having to do this. Make your university do a balance sheet and show us why they need this money. And if the entire system gets in that mode, it works. But I have seen student government elected students come before us and make the case and change things like that. So just get active in student government, and that will make a big difference in the tuition increases.
Mr. Reed, did you have a comment?
I got kind of a mixed response. First of all, I like the 10th Amendment, and 10th Amendment says that tuition, not quite literally, but take my word, says that issues of state government, which would be tuition fees, costs and operating of the university, are state issues. So I think the federal government ought to keep its hands out of that. But students do need help in paying those fees. And we have got to help any student qualified to get advanced degrees in sciences, math, engineering, physics, whatever these topics might be, get them. And I agree with Dr. Rowe. The interest rate, the interest structure on them has gotten out of control. And frankly, it's Congress's part, not only the current one, but all the Congresses that have voted on that in the past. But I think it is appropriate that we use every tool in our quiver, I guess, to make it possible for you to go to school and to pay it back, either through public service, through volunteer service, through teaching, through whatever you're doing that the government gets its money's worth to forgive those loans. And secondly, I think you, as students, have a responsibility. Now, frankly, I don't know what the tuition at ETSU is right now, but if you're going to graduate with a $100,000 loan and a degree in art history, you're never going to repay it. So some of our financial institutions and some of the university aid offices and some of the legislation that goes behind justifying our programs, we also have to be rational in who we're lending money to. Otherwise, we get into the same thing we had with the housing crisis. Now, I love dance and poetry and art history as much as anyone else, but there are certain economic realities, and when the government has an economic interest in it, it has to exercise those economic responsibilities reasonably. And so there have to be changes in what we give student loans for. And I hate to say we're protecting you from yourself, but in some cases, I'm sorry, but I think we might be. Mr. Rowe, correct me.
Jeff, I'd like to, let me just say one thing very briefly to show you how enormous student debt is in this country. It now surpasses all credit card debt in the United States. It's over $1 trillion. That's how big this is. And that's why we can't have a direct student loan program that charges you 6.8% interest legally. We have to change that. And by simply letting the banking system and the free market system work, not government regulations, then we'll do that. One quick thing on government regulations in schools, and I don't want you to laugh me off the stage, but I'm driving to Nashville 2 weeks ago. A school director, Jack Parton from Sevier County, Tennessee, calls me up and said, Phil, we're having to count tater tots now at school. We've decided, yeah, I did too. I almost ran off the road. I was laughing too. Now the federal government has gotten so into every phase of your life that they're counting how many calories these kids eat because they're too fat. A study that was published this past year, and it showed the kids are not getting overweight in school. That's not where they're gaining the weight. Mayor Bloomberg in the nanny state of New York's decided you can't drink anything but a 16-ounce drink. Well, we've had Mayor Bloomberg up about a year ago, and the next time he comes to Washington, D.C., I'm going to bring a 32-ounce drink and a bag of pork rinds and eat them while he's sitting there.
Next, we have Brenda Leonard, and then Mike Clark, and then we'll move to one more question, and I think we're about out of time.
Okay, sure. Let me just briefly answer the question that was asked. How do we reduce the tuition costs? And I think there's one thing that we need to really address, and that is the lobbying activities that happen at many major colleges and universities that work in direct opposition to students' best interests. They don't work in our best interest. They work in the interest of the university, the chancellors, and all these other departments. I'm completing my PhD in political science at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I know we've had 2, possibly 3 tuition increases. And you know what that is a result of? Successful lobbying. That's what that is a result of. And we need to limit, if not stop, lobbying activities that, again, work in direct opposition to the students, but work in concert with the special interests. And that will definitely help keep tuition costs low, if not decreasing.
You know, I'm hearing all this stuff that solves this problem, and everybody's got their own little kind of solution for it. And it reminds me of the little boy trying to plug the holes in the dike. Somebody's got a solution here. Somebody's got a solution over here. Next thing you know, the foot's up in the air and the toe's trying to stick in the dike. The problem we have is to try to make education more affordable so that we don't have to borrow so much money to learn. This is education. You're supposed to learn what you take into life. And we've made it to the point where it will take the rest of your life to just pay for the education. Now, we can solve it with lowering the interest rates, which is not a bad idea.
Get rid of the lobbyists.
We can solve it with getting rid of the lobbyists. But while we're at it, let's try to find ways to make education more affordable. This is the 21st century. We have a thing called the internet. It's been on all the papers. When I was here, I took online classes. And you know what? They were more expensive than in-classroom classes. Now, you tell me, does that make sense as an economic model? Should you not be taking classes? Could you not be taking your classes at home? And should that not be less of a cost? Why do we have to pay so much to go to school? And what can we do to solve it? We're using 19th century ideas in the 21st century. And we got to get past that. And we got to do the hard work and figure out how to make education responsible here in the 21st century. And that's what we need to do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for these great questions. There are many great questions we did not have time to read this evening. I hope you'll stay and maybe spend some time with each of these candidates or public service. And if your question was not asked this evening, perhaps you can ask that personally to the candidates. And I will sit down because I stand between you and the door prizes. And I don't want to be in that position. So would you please, again, let's thank our candidates, our officials, Congressman Phil Rowe, Mike Clark, Alan Woodruff, Brenda Leonard, State Senator Rusty Crowe, Micah Van Huss, State Representative Matthew Hill. Thank you, one and all.
And thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Eisenhower, and I'm the president of Alpha Delta Pi. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming out tonight to this event. And next, we're ready to give out some door prizes.
Okay, so if everyone would pull out their tickets, we have the first lucky number is 475647. Anyone? 475647. Yay! Yay! Allie just won an iPod Shuffle. Okay, next number is 475659. Next one. Okay, 475785. Oh, got a winner. You get a lovely Southern Tide hat and polo. Okay, next we're going for the Kindle Fire. Ooh. 475752.
Wow.
That's a good one. That's mine.
Over here.
If I knew that was a door prize, I wouldn't be giving away my ticket.
Pretty good. Pretty good gift.
Hot day.
Okay, next we're going for another Southern Tide, but this is a men's polo, or if it's a woman, then she'll get a visor. So 475653. 475663. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. 475612. Was that you, bud?
Not eligible for
Oh, yeah. That's probably good. Like Kindle was, with a visor and a t-shirt.
But they'll be better. I still remember the broom motor I won. What was it? Broom motor, which you used to put on bicycles.
Okay.
Oh, you know,
475634.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Hang around.
And two more. 475606.
That's the winner. This over here. The winners are sitting over here.
Who is that behind the sorority in the top coat?
Okay, last ticket, and this is for the Wii, Nintendo Wii. Everyone get it out. 475632.
She's got a lot of friends, I bet.
Way to go.
Just got lots of friends.
Oh, like a video game? That's awesome.
Oh my God, the whole system.
Again, on behalf of Alpha Delta Pi, we are so glad to have you here, and we hope you enjoyed our program, Freedom Rocks. Again, thanks for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful night.